welcome back to Malon's Tribe. My name is Marianne Allen, and I am bringing you contents both on my move to Ghana and Liberia, where I'm originally from. But currently, I am visiting the US to be returning to Ghana pretty soon. And while I'm in the US, I will be showing you contents of my activities here in the US. So today, I get to talk to you about some of the things that I should have recorded prior to the move and I wasn't able to, so I will be sharing that with you. There have been a few questions um, personally that people have asked me if I always knew I would move to Africa or if that was something that just popped up. Um, let's just say, and if you've seen some of my other videos, I've always mentioned that my husband has always been pro Africa, and my husband never really got the US into his system, um, and so on. So, my husband came to the US as an adult, a grown man, lived all of his life back in Liberia, was doing pretty well for himself. And then during the Ebola in Liberia 2014, his mom was like, "You better come here." Like, she had to pretty much yank him out of there. And that was how he came. And when he came, he kind of just stayed involuntarily. And then he met me. And the plan of him going back was not done alone. It was then introduced to me, that idea. So prior to meeting my husband, thought I never thought about the idea of living in Africa or living in Liberia. Um, I loved home, but my memory of what Liberia was when I left um, was a little tainted. And I think that happens to a lot of us who grew up during the war. We grew up seeing absolutely no development. So when you talk about going back to Liberia to live, that's not something you're excited about. Like, until you know what's there, you're not willing to trade what you have here for that. So, and that I was in that shoes until I met my husband. When I met him, I was pretty impressed about all the things that he had businesses back home running, and I mean reporting money to him while he was here in the US. And I was pretty impressed about that. I'm like, okay. And I will be sharing how I met my husband here in the future. But I was pretty impressed about that. And one of the things that he just brought up like right away was he asked me about my seeing me living in Africa or going back to Liberia. And I said, I want to visit. Like, my mom lives there, I have my sisters there. I just have not been able to visit. I would love to visit. And for living, I'm not sure yet because I don't know like what the possibilities are there. So I had an open mind. And then so then he told me that his goal was to go back and sometime in the future and make Liberia home again. So I was open to that idea as long as I understood what I was getting into or going into. And he was pretty willing to share all of that to me. I had so many questions. If you think you have questions about relocating to Africa, I'm watching the birds. um, I think I have more questions than you. So many questions. And he was just, and so many doubts. So every time I would ask the question, he would provide me the answer. He would provide me the resources. I would do my research, and I would come back and I would still doubt it. And we would go back and forth. He, I would like, we would have real debates about the advantages, the benefits about being here in the US versus in Africa, Liberia. And one of those things, for example, was schooling. Like, we would go back and forth about that. um but as time went by, I started to see things differently, and I started to reason, and I started to, it wasn't compromise. It was me really clearly taking off that US hat for a little bit, and trying to look a little keenly into some of the things that we um, doubt about Africa, or about Liberia. So I did not always um, know that I would move to Africa, but once that idea was introduced to me, I embraced it. So then we got married. Um, and after my husband like answered a whole lot of questions about the things that I was concerned about, I started to get a little bit more interested. And then he said, "Well, you would have to visit first." But I got so busy with work because I was running this really big project, and I just couldn't leave because I was the boss, like I needed to make sure things were in place, and people were doing what they were supposed to do. So I just felt so connected. And I felt like I need to work to make money to save so we can go. So I never really saw the necessity of going to visit just yet. But either way, we just started to plan. But when I started to get really excited about relocating to Africa was when we started to like physically detach ourselves from the US. We started to pay things down, and I started to sense a little bit of freedom when it comes to like bills and stuff. Um, we had our land and we started to build, and I started to do all these research, and I saw the possibilities. I like follow people who have moved, their stories, businesses, opportunities, and then it just started to make more sense to me, and I started to get a little bit more excited. However, I still felt like we were in a rush or we were in a hurry. So I would always ask, "Honey, do you think this is the right time? Don't you think we're moving a little too quickly? Maybe another year." Like even this year when we moved, I was actually talking to my husband for him to go ahead. For him to go ahead so I could follow by this December. Um and I don't know if it was cold feet, if it was, but there is something about the US that just holds you down. Like it just ties you down, and I think it's more of that certainty. So here you're certain about things. You're certain about your job, you're certain about your home, you're certain. I mean, there are some uncertainties to those things, but things are pretty stable. Life is pretty stable. So leaving that for uncertainty, going to a place where yes, it's home, yes, you watch all the videos and we're eating good food and we seem to be having fun. um Leaving all of this for that uncertainty makes it a little troubling. And getting past that trouble, mental trouble, is one of the hardest things you would ever have to do. But by the time you make that move, by the time you cross over, it starts to make sense. It starts to make sense, and you would realize that you have no regrets. To this day, we haven't even like fully transition, but I would say I have no regrets. And I think because I was having cold feet, like closer to the time, I felt I had like many great opportunities to make more money and so on. Um, and but I was tempted to just stick it out a little bit more. Let's make a little bit more money before we go. But I'm glad that my husband was able to get me over there, was able to get me on the other side. And for me to really live life to the fullest and live my potential, um, I would have to go to a place where I'm accepted, where I'm embraced, where I'm fully appreciated, um, where my work can actually create impact, where I'm not being undermined because people are envious or jealous. I mean, professionally, I mean, family wise, it's a whole other story, but professionally. And that really helped give me a kick in the butt, give me a kick in the butt to make the move. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did. So I didn't always know I would live in Africa. 6 years ago, I wasn't thinking about this until I met my husband 5 years ago. And then the thought got introduced. My husband, on the other hand, always knew he would go back. He was just, I mean, if he said if he did not meet me, he would have been back in Africa a long time before. But now, because he had a family, he just couldn't up and leave. So, but what I'm saying is, you don't always have to know that you would go. You just need to understand what the process is like. You just need to understand what the opportunities are, if you fit in those opportunities, if there are things there that you can do to sustain you, and so on. And you just make the move. Are you happy here? Could you be happy there? Would life be easier there than here? And once you can answer those questions, you just make the move, and you realize that it's actually the best thing you ever did. I haven't gotten to the point yet where I'm like seeing profits and seeing like the benefits in big time, but I know just by the little, my mental health and the convenience and the belonging, the feeling of belonging, it makes me realize that it is good. It's good for the soul. It's good for me. It's good for my family, and so on. And what's even better is that I will always have access to the U.S. I will always be connected to the U.S. So if I ever needed to take a break, I have this, and I think that's an advantage compared to those who may not have the opportunity to step away. So if you're thinking about relocating, and you want to do a 5-year plan, you need to start thinking now, or a 3-year plan. So because we did not wait till 5 years, ours wasn't a 5-year plan, so it was less than that. And I will give a little bit more detail in upcoming videos. So stick around, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the like, share the video, and make sure you're watching the ads. That's how your girl gets supported, to keep creating great contents. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for your support. Peace out.